JBS's The Jake Ehrenreich Show is brought to you in part by Stephanie and Simon Bergson, Helene and Barry Lewis, Judy Friedman and Ron Goldstock in honor of Hyas, Jonathan Fershpan, the memory of Nadia and Milton Bergson, Nira and Ken Abramowitz, Cynthia and Jeffrey Weisenfeld, and by viewers like you.
Live from the Triad Theater in New York City, it's the Jake Ehrenreich Show! Tonight, Jake's guests are comedian and impressionist Marilyn Michaels, Professor Dershowitz, and a special Catskills Hall of Fame induction to Jerry Lewis. And now, please welcome your host, direct from Brooklyn, Jake Ehrenreich.
Wow, what a great crowd. Look at you. You look great. Just give yourselves a nice round of applause. Why not? Oh, my goodness, my own television show. I can't believe it. Comedy, music, lots of Jews. It's great. I'm Jake Ehrenreich. I began my career in the Catskill Mountains as a young musician, and I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. Oh, my goodness, who's booing? Let me tell you a little about myself. So, picture this. 1965, I'm 9 years old. My dad and I were watching our first baseball game together on TV. And there's my father. You know, I learned a lot of things from my dad. Yeah, how to dress was not one of them. Anyway, we're watching the game together, right? And you have to understand, when I was growing up, baseball was very important to me. I needed American credentials to offset the fact that my parents were immigrants. Baseball is as American as apple pie, which was exactly what I wanted to be. My father knew nothing about baseball. This was not a popular game in Poland, where he grew up before World War II. But we were watching the game together. And even then, I knew he was watching it for me, which is so great. About the 5th or 6th inning, my dad turns to me. He says, "No, Yankele, what kind of game is this baseball? 2 people play and 8 people watch." This is what I'm dealing with growing up. I'm telling you, aside from my parents, I was an all-American, regular inner-city kid. I had my red rubber ball, a Spalding, or a Pensy Pinky. With this little ball, we created a whole world for ourselves. We played punch ball and stoop ball and stick ball. We played on our block, we played in the schoolyard, and we played at the park. Yeah, the park. A park is like a park. Very hard to say. But in Brooklyn, and also a Brooklyn park, it has no grass. This was concrete, chain link fence, steel monkey bars, like a litigator's dream. That's what it was. It wasn't a fancy place, but it was a very important place to us. You know, we learned some of our earliest life lessons there. From the older men, we learned style and grace. Is this familiar to some of you? Is it possible some of you out there are actually from my hometown of Brooklyn, New York? I love that. Let me tell you, I love when people here in the studio audience and in the club or people at home watching are from Brooklyn, because I know it means that there are fewer of you out there actively robbing my house at this moment. No, I love Brooklyn, right? Everybody loves their hometown, and I love Brooklyn. So I'm originally from the East Flapper section of Brooklyn. Yay! Wow. It was a tough neighborhood, right? Very tough neighborhood. My neighborhood was so tough, mother was half a word. I went to PS 233, Mile 11 Junior High School, and Samuel J. Tilden High School, the New York City public school system. It's a miracle I could read. What I'm trying to tell you, it was a good school. What I'm trying to tell you is that growing up, I was the all-American kid. I really was, except for my parents. and my name. My name growing up was Yankee. We'd be playing on our block. We'd all get called in for dinner. Gary, Mark, Stephen, Yankee. In that moment, I morphed from being the regular all-American kid into being super immigrant Jew kid with Holocaust survivor parents. Look, of course I knew we were different. But at that age, you just don't want to be different. My best friend, Gary Rosen, his mother made it worse. She insisted on calling me Yankee. Not Yankee like the New York Yankees. Yankee, as in Yankel, or Yankele. Yankele was my name in Yiddish. It's such a beautiful name. I was so embarrassed by it as a child. You know, you grow older and wiser. I've actually come to see Yiddish is an extraordinary language, a very special, loving language. Yankele is the loving diminutive form of the name Yankel, which is my name, Jacob, in Yiddish. You can do that to any word in Yiddish. Yankel becomes Yankele, Tate becomes Tatele, Bubby becomes Bub. You know about this already? You know, the first language I ever heard was Yiddish. My mother sang 3 lullabies to me as a child. One was in Polish, one was in Russian, and one was in Yiddish. So Poland was the land of her birth and her childhood, like my dad. Russia was the country that they both fled to for survival. And Yiddish was simply the language of all Eastern European Jewry. I'd love to sing a very special song for you tonight. This song is entitled Yankele. It's my name. It's a song that my mother sang to me. It speaks of a mother. She's singing to her infant son in his cradle, just like mine did for me. She's already envisioning his future life. Schlaf mir schon Yankele, mein Schöne. Die Äugelech, die Schwarzen gemacht zu. A Ingele, wo so schön alle Zehntelech. Mes nacht dem am singen, ay Lulu. A Ingele, wo so schön alle Zehntelech. Mes nacht dem am singen, ay Lulu. A Ingele, wo's faxt hat halber Chochem. An Agni, der Seucher euch zugleich. A Ingele, a kluger Chussenbuche, soll liegen a so nass wie in a Teich. A Ingele, a kluger Chussenbuche, soll liegen a so nass wie in a Teich. Sleep now, my precious son. Close your pretty eyes. You're old enough to have all of your teeth, still you need your mother to sing you to sleep. A budding scholar you are, and soon a bridegroom, but you still keep your parents awake at night. Sleep now, Yankele. For a while, you're still here with us. It'll cost much hard work and tears before we make amends you. No schlaf mir mein kluger Chossenbuche, der weiligst du in Wiegele bei mir. Seit kosten noch viel mehr und Mammes Tränen. Das Wannens fett am Mensch, Arois von dir. Das Fett kosten noch viel mehr und Mammes Tränen. Das Wannens fett am Mensch, Arois von dir. Stick around, we got a great show for you tonight. Marilyn Michaels is here. Alan Dershowitz is here. We'll be right back.
If you care about Israel and Jewish life today, there's a beautiful Jewish cultural channel just for you. JBS, the Jewish Broadcasting Service, where you'll see daily news from and about Israel, in-depth interviews with Jewish figures from across the Jewish spectrum. Have a front row seat at the marvelous programs of the 92nd Street Y and at outstanding lectures, conferences, and performances, with multiple Jewish films and documentaries every week, even twice daily programming for children. Learn to read Hebrew, study the Talmud, And if you're unable to attend a synagogue in person, JBS televises live Sabbath services every Friday night. And it's all free of charge. JBS, expanding Jewish understanding, celebrating all things Jewish.
We're back. Folks, we always like to do a few songs by Jewish songwriters during the show, and I always do one at the top. Today is no different. But today, the song I sang is especially close to my heart. It's the song that my mother sang to me as a baby, called Yankele. It was written by a very important Yiddish songwriter named Mordechai Gebertik, Mordechai Mordechai Gebertik, one of our most influential Yiddish songwriters and poets. He was born in Krakow, Poland in 1877. Very interesting, like many other of these Yiddish songwriters, this was not what he did for a living. He was a furniture worker. This was his hobby. So many of them were like that. And he is best known for a song called Sprent, which is still sung at Shoah commemorations. It means our little town is burning. Unser Städtel Sprent. I could never go to a Shoah commemoration with my father not telling me I have to sing Sprent. But I feel I know this guy, Mordechai Gebertik, because not only did he write Yankele, he wrote Rezele and Moishele and Motele and Kivele. You know, for someone to want to use those beautiful, tender names over and over must have been a beautiful, very touching and joyful and optimistic soul. May his memory live on forever. Certainly his music, his beautiful, inspiring music, lives on. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome our wonderful announcer and resident Brooklyn hipster, Brianne Bergson. She hates when I call her a hipster, but compared to me, look at you. It's Brooklyn hipster, right? I mean, a very pretty Brooklyn hipster, but Brooklyn hipster.
Thank you.
How are you,
I
my
live
dear?
in Brooklyn. You know.
You live in Brooklyn?
Yeah.
Nice.
But I think that's as much of the hipster part as I go, maybe.
Look, you're a hipster to me.
Thank you.
I'm
guess.
Very happy. Would you like to introduce our first guest today?
I would love to introduce our first guest.
I'm going over to the couch.
So Jake's first guest tonight is a true performing icon. She starred as the only female performer in the Emmy-nominated TV series The Copycats and has appeared on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, The Ed Sullivan Show, The Dean Martin Show, The Jackie Gleason Show, The Michael Douglas Show. She's appeared in a lot of shows. She began her performing career at age 7. She starred as Fanny Bryce in the national tour of Funny Girl and made her Broadway debut with an award-winning performance in the original cast of Catskills on Broadway. A woman of 1,000 voices and faces, she appeared in Playboy magazine as Bette Midler, Bo Derek, Julie Andrews, Barbara Streisand, and Donna Summer. Along with her son, Mark Wilk.
Enough already. How do I get on here? But let me come here.
Ladies and gentlemen, the wonderful Marilyn Michaels.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Do you have a boyfriend? My son is here. So here's my new book, and it's called How Not to Cook for the Rest of Your Life, right? Perfect for a Jewish woman like me anyway. And it's very funny, and I autographed this to the incredible Alan Dershowitz, who is going to be here after me. What? They know he's going to be here. Oh, who are you? Who is this? Oh, this is the star. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
On the show.
Marilyn and I
Jewish
actually know each other, so she's putting me on a little bit.
Oh, do we know each other? You said you were in my house.
I was in your apartment.
With your wife?
With my wife,
How
yes.
did you get in?
I know.
I don't remember it.
It's a very
There
nice
are some
apartment.
things missing. I'm happy for you.
You look great.
Thank you.
You look fabulous. It's unbelievable.
Thank you.
Does anybody know when Marilyn started in show business?
Yeah. Oh, there you go. All right.
7. One person.
7.
7
you know.
years old.
Oh, I was
with
7. Yeah.
Her mom.
Because my mother was Friedel Oischer, a great cantoress and the sister of Moshe Oischer, the iconic cantor. That was my Uncle Moshe. You can applaud for this, actually. And Mama used to go on tour a lot when I was a little girl, and she was always going on tour. She left me with Bubby, and she left me with my dad, Harold, who sang with the Metropolitan Opera. And there was
like
always
40 years.
Yes, for 40
Not
years.
for
Yeah,
5 minutes.
you know stuff.
Oh yeah.
But a kid you want your mother, right? So I said, Mama, if you don't take me with you when you go on tour, I'm never going to eat again.
I don't know if people know. So Marilyn obviously is an unbelievable impressionist.
Oh.
She's a fabulous singer. You can't do those impressions without being a great singer.
Thank you, darling.
And you started as a singer.
Yes, I was originally I was just singing. I was singing in Yiddish, and then I was singing in different
What is that?
languages.
What's that? Yiddish?
What did I
what is
sing?
That? What is it? Is that a foreign language?
Ich darf sagen etwas zu dir.
Oh, dat is Yiddish, wow!
Ein paar Menschen verstehen, was du
don't
verstehst,
know.
was du sagst.
Oh my
Du
goodness.
verstehst, du redest ein
gracious.
bisschen. This is my answer. This is my only time that I have a chance to speak Yiddish on television. There's not a big demand for it lately. I don't know why, you know. They would say, oh, talk Yiddish, right? Come on, right, so terrific. They don't want, just gonna talk Yiddish, sure. Oh, Golub, you're rich. Anyway.
No,
What?
What's interesting to me is
Are
first
the
of all,
Weisbergers here?
the Weisbergers. Oh my God. Ladies and gentlemen, in 47 million homes across the country, the Weisbergers are here.
Listen, I want to tell you, Josh and Rachel, my best friend. So
Oh my God, that's
I'm verklempt
beautiful.
now. I'm very verklempt.
I know that you started in Yiddish theater.
Yes.
And my question, in this book, so by the way, this is not a cookbook, right? So this is,
It's not.
it's not a cookbook. It's how not to cook for
Right.
the rest of your life. And she wrote it with her son, Mark. And
Who's there? He's here.
Mark
my
Cook
son.
is here.
He's so talented.
fabulous.
Sweetheart, he's the apple of my eye, darling.
The apple.
The apple, you should only find a girl already, sweetheart. Somebody, maybe you have a young person here. The lady what came up was very sweet. See, I got you laughing. What? I'm funny? Hello? I'm supposed to be. Hello? Magda! Oh my God! This is Magda Katz. She's a great producer. Hi, sweetheart.
Isn't that great? Ladies and gentlemen, Magda Katz is here. If you don't mind, we're just going to go around the room. Just yell out your name. So in your life, remember, this is a Jewish television station, right?
Oh, really?
How, when
You're kidding me. This is news to me.
So-
I thought it was Cleopatra entering Rome.
I wonder, in all of what you've done, the Jewish life that you lived, did that affect in any way your career, for better, for worse? When you went on Johnny Carson, I'm sure you didn't talk about being Jewish. In your perception, being Jewish, how did that affect your career? Good, bad, later, not the Yiddish theater in the beginning. Later.
It's good. It's good. First of all, I went on the Johnny Carson and I sang a song called Mamala, which I was kind of like associated with that song. They loved it. And I think when you stand up for your religion and you stand up for your heritage and your culture, that people respect it. They love it.
Boy, do I agree with that. Do I?
And then, being Jewish didn't hurt Barbara Streisand.
Who?
You know what I'm talking about? Didn't hurt Barbara, right? And it didn't hurt Woody Allen. Didn't hurt Woody. He's terrific,
Do you?
He's terrific. And my son does the definitive Woody Allen, actually.
I'm
Dustin Hoffman. Did it hurt Dustin Hoffman? I mean, this is it. It seems that our industry is, Jewish 24/7. You just did an album, didn't you, where you're singing and you're singing Gershwin, you're singing Irving Berlin.
Yeah, I mean,
Harold Arlen.
there's no question about it.
Not better. It never gets better than that.
I really love it. In the early days of television, wasn't there a saying, speak British, think Yiddish? Because it meant the face of these early television shows, mostly the sitcoms, right? The Dick Van Dyke Show, all that. Think of who was on the screen. Think of who the writers were. This was all Mel Brooks.
Yeah, it's Carl Reiner,
right?
Mel Brooks, and Herb Sargent, and all the. I mean, comedy is about Jewish writers. So that's.
Well, that's what we talk about. You know, I often talk about in the Catskills, Jewish comedy became American comedy. But the reason I ask you also about this early, I'm very curious. At what point, because you're a great singer, I mean, I can't say this enough.
Thank you, honey.
She's a great singer.
Thank you.
When did you realize you could do impressions?
I was 12, 11, and I would just go around the house, and I was able to, you know, mimic people, and I would do, who would I do? Who's sorry now? Who's sorry now? That's Connie Francis, if anyone has forgotten.
Amazing.
You know. I was waltzing with my darling to the dance. Patty Page and, you know, people like that. You know, I'm dating myself, but from the 50s and some of these great. And then I got into, you know, Judy Garland. It was so terrific. And then, and Liza. Mama! So then my mother said, when they saw me on, but it was something, why do I feel like talking like Zsa Gabor? But even if I do it, I have to tell you, you're not going to believe what I'm saying, but Ivana Trump is exactly the same way she talks like that. And I'm going to the Donald, I'm going to get a massage, and then we're going to have lunch, then we're going to get another massage, and then we're going to get the... She sounded like Zsa Gabor. And then Melania, she also talking like this. Why can't he get someone who talks right? Get someone who talks right. Hello.
I love to. Could I embarrass you a little bit? So I love. I love all of your impressions, but there's one impression that kills me, and we have a little tape of it.
You do?
We do.
Oh, look.
And we have this tape we could play of the most incredible impression I have ever seen. We got it back there somewhere?
What? What is it?
We do.
Happy days are here again. Stars above are clear again. Oh, I'm doing a duet with myself.
Nice.
A song of cheer again.
Happy night.
Happy nights.
Happy times.
Happy times.
Happy days.
Days are here again.
Marilyn Michaels. Great Marilyn Michaels. Stick around. We'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, my next guest is an up-and-coming young comic. He spent most of his life so far working in a different vocation. It didn't go that well. He's looking for something else to do. He's from Brooklyn. We'd like to give him a shot. Please welcome Professor Alan Dershowitz.
Thank you. Look, if I could have been a stand-up comedian, I would have been a stand-up comedian.
Well, you're pretty funny.
Well.
I mean, I've read some of your briefs.
You know, and I am funny, but looks aren't everything, right?
I am so honored that Alan is here. Let me tell you how he came to this show, by the way, because Alan is usually on political shows, right? And by the way, I got to tell you, so you're the last of the Mohicans, right? You're the last Zionist, liberal, civil libertarian on earth. It's you and the dodo bird.
And the dodo bird is turning left.
Yeah.
And he is part of the BDS movement now.
But no one is more important in support of Israel than you are, because you are the word. Thank you very much. Let me tell you how Alan came to be on my show. So I actually called him to be on my advisory board for the Catskills Hall of Fame. And before I know it, he's emailing me all funny Catskill stories. And I said, you should be on the show. He said, okay. And here he is, so thank you so much.
Thank you.
And you're a Catskill boy.
I am.
A Brooklyn boy and a Catskill boy.
I started going to the Catskills when I was 5 years old.
No.
A little cook-a-line where we
That
shared.
means cook alone.
Well, but you
It's a
never
Yiddish
cooked
word.
alone.
Of course not.
You shared it with somebody else. So it was cook with Yenim,
Cook
but
with-
I don't know why they named it cook-a-line.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. So you started when you were 5 in
Yeah.
a kochel, which is even less than a bungalow colony.
Oh, yeah. No, the bungalow colony had to be rich to go to the bungalow colony. I never quite made it to the bungalow colony until, then I could, when I was like 14, I got working papers, a little illegally, and I started to work in small hotels in the Catskill Mountains that had one thing in common. The day after the last Jewish holiday, the day after Simchat Torah and Shmini Atzeretz, routinely the hotel burned down because the season was over and they had failed and they were trying to collect insurance, which led to the old Jewish joke. A businessman greets a friend and says, "I heard you had a fire." He says, "Shh, it's tomorrow." Or another guy says, "I heard you had a flood." The other guy says, "How do you make a flood?" These are terrible stereotypes. We're very honest people. Most of us, not the ones I represent, but always, not always. Some are nice, some are very honorable.
Wow, so you did that, and then you worked in the Catskills, right?
I worked in the Catskills. I worked in a number of hotels, and then I worked in camps in the Catskill Mountains. I worked as a waiter in Camp Eton. I worked as a counselor in Camp Maple Lake. I worked in a number of places.
Wait a minute. Don't we have a photo of Alan? You can't make a...
Oh, yeah.
Oh. What?
That's me in the middle, and it caused me a lot of problems with my grandson. When I showed it to my grandson, who's now 23 and really good-looking, a redhead, he's in medical school, I said, "That was me when I was your age." He said, "Oh, my God, you mean I'm going to end up looking like you now?" That's the curse. What can I tell you?
It's beautiful. Look. Oh, well, you're gone now, but
Yeah.
you were like a strapping...
I was a stud. I was a tough guy.
Clearly.
And one of my fellow really good athletes is in your audience here tonight.
Who's that?
Josh Weisberger, who was the captain of the Brooklyn College, our houseplant soccer team, basketball team. We were an Orthodox houseplant at Brooklyn College. An Orthodox houseplant. The first male Orthodox houseplant. You think of Orthodox Jews as wimps. We won the athletic championship of the entire Brooklyn College, thanks largely to Josh.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, I really have to say this. So, Alan Dershowitz is a guest. Marilyn Michaels is a guest. Josh Weisberger has been mentioned twice. Who are you, for goodness sake?
He's the smartest guy in the world because he married Rochelle.
Oh, wow.
Their daughter is here with them today.
Oh, that's beautiful. I
Yep,
love that.
yep.
That's lovely. Now, you went to the Catskills from Brooklyn.
I did.
And I actually,
Remember Route 17, that Apple place?
The Apple place?
Yeah,
The Red Apple Rest? What do you mean the Apple place?
Where you stopped to daven mincha. Right. Because it was getting dark.
That's the difference between you and I.
Right.
I stopped to pee.
All right. You could do both. You could do both. Right.
Oh, it's so funny. That makes me think of my family when we have, my family is so diverse. When my son became a bar mitzvah, we were giving, relatives aliyot.
Right.
And so one of my relatives said, Jake, we love you, but we can't go on the bima because, you have women and we don't do that. And another relative said, what's an aliyah? So, one person stopped to pee, the other went to daven. That's amazing. Wow. And so, now the red apple rest was important, but I remember, just full disclosure, so Alan and I inducted Alan into the Brooklyn Jewish Hall of Fame.
Right, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I love one story he told, because he said when he was moving back from Boston, he wanted to live in Brooklyn again, but it was too expensive, so he moved to Sutton Place.
It's absolutely true. We looked for an apartment in Williamsburg, where I was born. I grew up in Borough Park, and it was 25% more than Sutton Place. Sutton Place is beautiful. They used to not let us live there.
Of course.
But now they let us live there, and I'm the youngest person in my building, which is why it's not so expensive. And
And you look great, so you're not that old. Now, when you went to the Catskills, did you do like the Simon Says thing?
Oh, of course. Well, we used to sneak in to Grossinger's. We couldn't afford to go to Grossinger's. We snuck into Grossinger's, and we would always participate in Goldstein. He was the...
Lou Goldstein, sure.
What did you call him?
Invented
Not
Simon
the Mach...
A tumbler.
The tumbler.
Yeah.
So a little later, when I became a little bit more established, I took my parents to Grossinger's. So my mother became the Simon Said champion. Now, I'll tell you why. My mother was so smart. She was the smartest person I ever met. So, what Goldstein would do is he would say, raise your right hand. And he'd be raising his left hand. Everybody raise their left hand. My mother figured out a way of beating this. She played Simon Said, closing her eyes.
Oh, wow.
So she never saw what he was doing. She only listened. So he said, right hand, put up her right hand. My mother was so smart.
That's that's such an easy solution.
Yeah.
How did no one ever think of this?
Yeah.
I know no one that ever did that.
I still think we have some of the rolls that my mother took from lunch. You'd have lunch. There were like 17 meals a day. But for my mother, that wasn't enough. She would have a little bag she took with her, and she'd take the onion rolls and the pumpernickel rolls back to the room for a snack. I think we still have some.
That's the old Mousy Lawrence bit. Fileta. Bring me some sour cream. Bring me a bowl. Bring me a wheelbarrow of sour cream, fileta.
But I got the biggest tip ever when I worked in the King David Hotel, because there was a woman who had a cat. She lived with her cat. It was a very expensive, very fancy cat. And when they were serving a fleishik meal, she couldn't get milk for her cat. So me and a fellow waiter figured out a way. We would tell the mashgiach there was something wrong somewhere. He would go away, and I'd sneak into the milchik place, and I'd bring her a bowl of milk for her cat, and she gave me a $25 tip. It was like unbelievable. It paid for my first semester of law school.
Now, so you grew up Orthodox, right?
I grew up Orthodox, modern Orthodox. I put on tefillin and was strictly kosher until I was 27. And one law firm, a Jewish law firm, wouldn't hire me because they said, we need somebody who is available 7 days a week. But when I went to apply for a clerkship for Justice Arthur Goldberg on the Supreme Court, I said, Mr. Justice, I appreciate your offer, but you have to know I can't work on Shabbos, and if you want to withdraw your offer, you should feel free to do it. And he looked at me and said, I should withdraw my offer. How dare you even suggest that I might withdraw an offer because you're a Shomer Shabbat? Of course I want you to work for me. I have another guy, he'll work on Saturday, you work on Sunday. I have covered 7 days a week.
That's beautiful.
And he was wonderful.
That's great.
And when I went to Harvard, I first started teaching there. They assigned me to teach classes on Saturday morning. I said, I can't do it. And the dean said, well, we can't make an exception for you. I said, well, why don't you just end Saturday classes? He said, all right. And so I ended Shabbos classes for all of Harvard Law School.
That's worth a round of applause. The kids must have loved you.
They did. The kids loved it.
No
Nobody wanted Saturday
Of
classes.
course not.
Yeah.
Oh, my God, that's great. Do you miss teaching at all?
I miss the students, but when I turned 75, I really
You're 75?
No, I'm 80.
You're 80?
Yeah, I just turned 80. You're right. When I turned 75, I wanted to have a new career. And
This is
so,
it?
yeah, I tried to be a stand-up comedian, but I couldn't do that.
I was kidding. I didn't realize you were looking for...
But I wanted to practice law. I wanted to travel a lot. So I now represent people all over the world who have problems in multiple jurisdictions. You know, an Israeli who's in trouble in Africa, or a British guy who's in trouble in South America. And when you have multiple countries, you have to really walk a tightrope to figure out how to avoid that. So that's been my practice, and I've loved it.
I can just see someone calling, Professor Dershowitz, yes, I need an attorney. This is my problem. Commit a crime in another country and call me after.
But I do half of my cases, which is interesting. I've always done that. I do half of my cases pro bono. So
Really?
50% of my cases are poor people. I work with an organization called Aleph, which is a Chabad organization that represents Jewish inmates all over the world. All over the world. Jews who are
All
in trouble.
5 of them?
Yeah, no, I wish. Let me tell you, many of the prisons you can get a real minion, a minion plus. And Jews are not treated well in prison. And they're discriminated against. And so we fight for the rights of Jews not to be discriminated against, to get kosher food, to be able to have services. And also, we try to get them out. We try to get them transferred to their own home country. So it's really interesting, and I love doing it.
Well, I'm not surprised to hear anything like that, because every time I see you on TV, I'm so thrilled. I mean, when I watch this, I'm not going to be that thrilled. But when I watch you, defend civil liberties and defend Israel, I feel so good about it.
And I learned it all in the Catskill Mountains. You know, everything I learned in the Catskill Mountains, whether it be at the President Hotel, the Pine View Hotel, the Pioneer Country Club, King David Hotel, Brown's, Grossingers was too fancy for us. The Concord was too fancy.
Of course.
Kutch's, we could play a little basketball, and you'd watch some of the pros. Red Auerbach used to come there.
Of course.
Yeah.
I'm friendly with a guy named Jack Laub, who he's 93 years old now. He played in the NBA, but he played up at Kutch's all the time. Interestingly enough, he's a very interesting man. I'd like to introduce you. He was the only ball player in history to play 6 years in the NCAA. Because he went to war, and when he came back, they let him go back into college for 4 more years.
But my biggest claim to fame is I ended up playing in Madison Square Garden in 1954 in the Yeshiva League championship game before the Knicks-Syracuse Nationals game. And guess who I guarded? I guarded a young kid named Ralphie Lipschitz. Familiar? Ralph Lauren.
Wow.
Not a great ball player, but boy, did he dress well. And he went to Manhattan Talmudic Academy. I went to Brooklyn Talmudic Academy, and we played, and we shared lockers with the players, and I met Dolph Schayes in that locker room. And
Tell people who Dolph Schayes is.
Well, he was, he played for NYU, and then he became Syracuse Nationals All-Star, one of the greatest ball players in history.
Look
His son
him up out there if
was
you don't
also
know
a
Dolph
great
Schayes.
ball player. Look, but not every Jew who was a great ball player did well. We grew up in a neighborhood where the...
What neighborhood did you grow up in?
We grew up in Borough Park.
Borough Park.
But in Coney Island, there was...
Say it right, Borough Park.
Borough Park. Borough Park.
Yeah.
There was a kid named Jack Molinas. He played for Columbia University, and he was drafted to the NBA. And in his first year, they caught him betting on games. Banned from the NBA for life. Moved to Las Vegas, ended up with a bullet in the back of his head.
Wow.
And there's a book called The Great Molinas, which tells the tragic story. This kid was an amazing guy. I also grew up on the same block. He moved in when he was like 14 or 15, of a young ball player. Some of you may have heard him. He's a little obscure. His name was Koufax.
Oh, my God.
Sandy Koufax. He lived on 48th Street. I lived on 48th Street. He lived between 14th and 15th Avenue. His father had a little law store in his apartment, and it was Irving Koufax, attorney at law, real estate, automobile accidents, insurance, and he was part of our neighborhood. He was a little older than us. Did you see him on TV the other night at the Red Sox-Dodger games? Amazing. He's 83 years old. He looks like he's 45. He is in such amazing shape. For my 50th birthday, my wife, the most marvelous person on the face of the earth, got Sandy Koufax to come to our house for dinner.
Oh.
And we reminisced. And I said, I remember when you did that. He said, I never did that. I said, but I remember when... No, I never did that. I remember... No, that didn't happen. But my memories were sharp as could be. They just weren't true. I just remembered better than they happened.
That's quite interesting
yeah.
for a lawyer
for
to know
a lawyer,
that
I when I cross-examine witnesses, I think of that.
Absolutely. You know, I remember, and you were there, but I remember when Sandy Koufax, pitched the perfect game.
Yeah.
When we took such pride as Jews, as young Jewish kids, that, someone of our tribe, one of us did that. It's so unusual because it just gives you pride in a way.
Yeah, but you get the opposite. So the Red Sox have a player named Ian Kinsler. He's Jewish. He screwed it up in every possible way during the World Series. He made errors. He made running mistakes. And he struck out about 11 times. So I said, give me a hitting Gentile over a striking out Jew anytime. So, not all Jewish baseball players are great. I was once asked on a show, who was the most important Jew ever to play baseball? And it was not Sandy Koufax. It was Greenberg. Let me tell you why it was Hank Greenberg.
Hank Greenberg.
Because Hank Greenberg was the first, number one. Number two, he played during the Hitler buildup, when there was an enormous amount of anti-Semitism, both in this country and around the world. And Hank Greenberg kind of did for Jews what Jesse Owens did for African Americans, proving to the Nazis and to the anti-Semites that Jews were strong, that we could do it. He was the most important Jew ever to play baseball, but Sandy Koufax is a close second.
I think the thing about Sandy that was great, and I don't disagree with you, but I think what Sandy Koufax did with, I don't know if people remember the Yom Kippur game.
Yeah.
So this was not an Orthodox Jew. Sandy Koufax was not an Orthodox Jew.
Although he went to Temple Emmanuel in Borough Park on 49th and 15th Avenue for the high holidays, yeah.
And he had to pitch the first game of the World Series on Yom Kippur, and he didn't.
That's right. Drysdale pitched instead.
He didn't.
And they lost. And I think, I may be wrong about that, but it was remarkable. Hank Greenberg also didn't play on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. He went to shul in Detroit. He came from New York, but he went to shul in Detroit. But he's not remembered as much for that. Yeah.
Who was the guy, I don't know if it was Hank Greenberg or not, he got a dispensation from some rabbi to play on one of the high holidays.
I think that was me. Right.
It was
Greenberg, yeah.
And interesting, so they won the game, and then the next day, the newspapers had Hebrew headlines.
Okay.
It wasn't in English; it was in Hebrew letters. Right. It was a big to-do.
So let me tell you why there are no heroes in the world. So everybody here thinks the world of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, right? Fantastic. When the Jonathan Pollard case was supposed to be argued, it was scheduled for argument on the second day of Rosh Hashanah. And Ruth Bader Ginsburg was one of the 3 judges on the case. And she was asked to postpone the case so that Jewish supporters of Pollard could be there, including me. She refused to do it. And the case went forward and was argued on the second day of Rosh Hashanah. So nobody's perfect. And she ruled against Pollard. Right.
So there you go. But Alan, listen, I want to do something with you, and I hope that this is okay.
Usually that's the prelude to something.
Gentlemen,
right.
I'm going to take a shot here.
Okay.
But it comes to me through some very well-placed sources that you're sort of a semi-operatic singer as a hobby. Is it quite a good...
I sang in the choir, Beryl Achagi and Moshe Kusevitsky in Borough Park.
So it's true.
And I got smacked around a lot by the choir leader because I was off key sometimes. So, all right.
Well, I think he's being a little humble, but I hear that he has a beautiful lyric tenor voice, And I wonder, we've prepared something, and perhaps we can get Alan to sing if we ask him. Is this going to be okay?
Well, I've had clients who not only sing, but sometimes compose. But okay.
Well, and I thought that the appropriate tune would be, there is one aria that was actually written for the Catskill Mountains.
Yeah, you don't know this. It's true. It's the only aria, classical aria.
Oh, so you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know that song. Yeah.
Oh my.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a premiere. Alan Dershowitz singing a great aria about the Catskill Mountains.
Okay, ready?
And Maestro.
Hello, mother. Hello, father. Here I am at Camp Granada. Camp is very entertaining, and they say we'll have some fun if it stops raining. I went hiking with Joe Spivey. He developed poison ivy. You remember Leonard Skinner. He got ptomaine poisoning last night at dinner. All the counselors hate the waiters, and the lake has alligators. And the head coach wants no sissies, so he reads to us from something called Ulysses. Now, I don't want to scare ya, but my bunkmate has malaria. You remember Jeffrey Hardy? They are about to organize a searching party. Take me home, oh mother, father, take me home. I hate Granada, don't leave me out in the forest where I might get eaten by a bear. Take me home, I promise I will not make noise or mess the house with other boys. Oh, please don't make me stay. I've been here one whole day. Dearest father, darling mother, how's my precious little brother? Let me come home. If you miss me, I would even let Aunt Bertha hug and kiss me. Wait a minute. It stopped hailing. Guys are swimming. Guys are sailing. Playing baseball. Gee, that's better! Mother, father, kindly disregard this letter. Thank you. I'm keeping my day job, don't worry.
Stick around. We'll be right back with a very special Catskills Hall of Fame induction.
Want to know what programs will be on JBS in the coming week? Then sign up for the JBS Sunday email, which highlights future JBS programming and gives you the JBS weekly schedule, which you can print out and refer to throughout the week. And it's so simple to do. Just visit our new JBS website at jbstv.org and click on Newsletter Sign Up and fill in your name and email address. And every Sunday morning, you'll receive an email with JBS programming information. JBS, expanding Jewish understanding, celebrating all things Jewish.
The Catskill Mountains in its heyday was truly a magical place. Just 100 miles from New York City is where Jewish comedy became American comedy. It was a fresh air haven for Jewish families, including many survivor families like mine. They got a few weeks during the summer to let their hair down, relax, and try to live again. The Catskills Hall of Fame honors the men and women who gave us so much. Entertainers, athletes, comedians, hotel owners, musicians. They helped us thrive and they helped shape American culture, and they left a legacy for us all. This evening, the Catskills Hall of Fame is pleased to honor the one and only Jerry Lewis. It is impossible in a reasonable period of time to list the career achievements of Jerry Lewis. Carl Reiner wrote, after Lewis's death, "They say that mankind goes back to the first guy, which everyone tries to copy. In comedy, that guy was Jerry Lewis." Jerry Lewis was born Joseph Levitch on March 16, 1926, in Newark, New Jersey, to Russian Jewish parents. His dad was a vaudeville entertainer. His mom was a piano player. He began performing at age 5 alongside his parents in the Catskill Mountains. He gained national attention as part of an act with singer Dean Martin. Within a few years, they were a cultural phenomenon, with crowds rivaled only by Frank Sinatra and later Elvis Presley and the Beatles. Lewis went on to star in, direct, produce, and write 36 motion pictures, appear on television, headline in nightclubs, star in musicals, and sing on best-selling records. For almost 2 decades, from the late 40s to the mid-60s, Jerry Lewis was an unprecedented force in American popular culture. Widely acknowledged as a comic genius, he was often referred to as a bridge from vaudeville to modern comedy. His style influenced generations of comics and paved the way for comedians like Richard Pryor, and Steve Martin, and Jim Carrey. Carrey wrote, "Jerry would stretch the boundaries of reality so far that it was an act of anarchy. I learned from Jerry. I am because he was." Lewis was also a very important filmmaker, which many people don't know. He directed himself, paving the way for the likes of Mel Brooks and Woody Allen. And during the filming of The Bellboy, he pioneered the technique of video assist, for which he received numerous technical awards. The practice was revolutionary at the time, and it's commonplace today in filmmaking. His University of Southern California film directing class included students such as George Lucas and Steven Spielberg. That's how important a director he was. He was the recipient of numerous awards. He hosted the Oscars 3 times, has 2 stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Jerry served, of course, as the host of the Labor Day Muscular Dystrophy Telethon for 44 years. And for his dedication, he was nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize and received the Academy Awards Jean Hirschheld Humanitarian Award. For my own part, Jerry Lewis holds a very special place in my heart. He was one of the few big stars that always came back to the Catskills, even when the area began to lose its shine. I recall the excitement when he would return for his annual performance at Charles and Lillian Brown's Hotel in Loch Sheldrake, New York, where he first started. I was even lucky enough to be working there as a young drummer one of those years. It's just something you never forget, as through it all, Jerry never forgot his beloved Catskills. Jerry Lewis left us in 2017 at the age of 91. Ladies and gentlemen, the Catskills Hall of Fame is proud to induct the one and only Jerry Lewis. Let's enjoy some classic Jerry. Folks, I'd like to leave you with a kind of funny song tonight. You know, we always do songs written by Jewish songwriters, and I grew up loving Christmas music. I really did, but I kept it a secret. You know, when I got older and I realized how many Jewish songwriters wrote these Christmas songs, it really struck me. I ended up talking about it in my show at Jew Grows in Brooklyn, and I just recently recorded a CD entitled A Treasury of Jewish Christmas Songs, a cool jazz tribute to the Jewish songwriters. And I'd like to perform one of those songs now. It's known as a Christmas song, but the lyrics go straight to my heart. It was written by Robert Detcher and Albert Silverman, really Robert Allen and Alice Stillman, which is what they call themselves. And here's the very great tune, Home for the Holidays. Well, there's no place like home for the holidays, 'cause no matter how far away you roam, when you pine for the sunshine of a friendly gaze, for the holidays, you can't beat home, sweet home. I met a man who lived in Tennessee. He was headed for Pennsylvania and some homemade pumpkin pie. From Pennsylvania, folks are traveling down to Dixie's sunny shore. From Atlantic to Pacific, the traffic is terrific. Well, there's no place like home for the holidays, 'cause no matter how far away you roam, if you pine for the sunshine of a friendly gaze, for the holidays, you can't beat home, sweet home. I met a man who lived in Tennessee. He was headed for Pennsylvania and some homemade pumpkin pie. From Pennsylvania, folks are traveling down to Dixie's sunny shore. From Atlantic to Pacific, the traffic is horrific, 'cause there's no place like home for the holidays, 'cause no matter how far away you roam, when you pine for the sunshine of a friendly face, for the holidays, you can't beat home, sweet home. For the holidays, we're hunkered down at home. For the holidays, I gotta hang at home. Hi, folks. You know, we're often asked where people can get my books or CDs. We've created a very easy way to get them. Simply go to jakeehrenreich.com. Both my CDs are there, A Treasury of Jewish Christmas Songs, which is a tribute to the Jewish songwriters, and Yiddish Unplugged, a compilation of my dad's favorite Yiddish folk songs. Both make excellent gifts. Of course, my first book, A Jew Grows in Brooklyn, is available, which Publishers Weekly called Entertaining Throughout. And there are more items too. So it's very simple. Just go to jakeehrenreich.com, wind up with a book to read, some music to enjoy, or a unique gift for a loved one. Stay well, my friends. I look forward to seeing you. And now back to the show. That's our show. I'd like to thank my guest, Marilyn, the one and only Alan Dershowitz, Triad Theater, Josh and Rochelle Weisberger, video John Burton, our directors Sloan Copeland and Lisa Ehrenreich, JBS President and Senior Executive Producer Rabbi Mark Howard. We want to thank Peter Martin here at the Triad. God bless you all. We'll see you again soon.